The Joshlin Smith kidnapping trial today has heard one of the accused, Jacquen Appollis, admit to, this is under cross-examination, that parts of his confession were fabricated. The Western Cape High Court, sitting in Saldanha Bay, hearing arguments to determine whether confessions made by Appollis and the co-accused, Steveno van Rhyn, can be admitted as evidence. Their lawyers have argued that these statements were made under duress. Let's speak now to Newzroom Afrika's Nasiphi Same, who joins us from Saldanha Bay tonight. Nasiphi, good evening to you. So if indeed Jacquen Appollis admits in the court that he fabricated some of his evidence, what happens now, given that we are still in a trial within a trial determining whether or not these so-called confessions were made under duress?
Well, Xoli, he has admitted. So the question now is, or rather the ball is in the court, the hands of the court, when it comes to that in relation to Jacquen Appollis and his admission to lying under oath during cross-examination that the testimony that he gave on Friday, he had omitted certain things and to some point admitted to have, lying. So it is now in the hands of the court to decide regarding his testimony where to from here, as we do know that by the end of this week, Judge Nathan Erasmus is looking to not only conclude the trial within a trial, but also have his verdict out on whether or not those very contentious statements from both Appollis and Van Rhyn will be admitted as evidence to then be used in the main trial, looking into the disappearance of Joshlin and the defense fiercely fighting the statements being admitted as evidence, as they do know the weight or the gravity that these particular statements have when it comes to the main trial. But just on Friday, Xoli, Jacquen Appollis and his lawyer painstakingly going through that particular statement that they are now contesting line by line, where Jacquen was indicating to the court this part is true, this part it is not true, as we do know that the defense has been arguing that the statements or portions of the statements were prescribed to them by officers. However, today, Jacquen Appollis making an about turn on certain parts, saying that he had omitted and not told the court that that part or certain section is not true. The state putting it to him that according to his testimony, he was given 5 or prescribed to 5 sentences, and ultimately he has a whole paragraph. The state asked him to prove that which parts are the truth and which parts aren't, taking into account that he says the falsified information and him making up stories is all intertwined in that particular statement. So the state putting it to him that they do not believe the fact that he made up some of the things or the contents in the statement along the way. For example, he says that when he arrived at Makalima, who we now know as this person that Jacquen was allegedly sent to by Kelly to hand over Joshlin and receive a certain payment. He says in his confession statement that he arrived at Makalima's home and she opened the door and asked him to sit down. And outside there were 4 children who Joshlin was playing with, who were younger than him. And the court then asking him, going at such great lengths to make up details and paint a picture to the court, only to turn around and say that that is not indeed true. So tomorrow we can expect Steveno van Rhyn to continue with his evidence in chief, and ultimately later on in the day for the state to have the opportunity to poke holes into that testimony. Once again, we can expect later this week for Judge Nathan Erasmus to make that ruling as to whether or not these very, very contentious statements, confession statements, will then be admitted in the main trial.
Nasiphi Same live for us in Saldanha Bay tonight. Thank you very much indeed for that update.